Well, folks, unfortunately, I have one of the most disturbing clips that I've seen in a while to share with y'all today, but I think it's very important that we take a look at it and see it for what it is, because when I first saw it, I said to myself, my initial reaction was, this is exactly what Donald Trump ushered in. This type of rhetoric is exactly what he has tried to normalize and make okay in this country, and we can never do that. We have got to call it out for the insanity that he truly is. This is a sheriff down in Florida by the name of Wayne Ivey. This guy should turn in his badge today, and he should never be behind any desk with any position of power again. He shouldn't be allowed to make any decision for anyone ever again based off of this unbelievable statement that he just comes right out and says he's literally threatening to kill protesters. And it gets pretty graphic. He just goes for it. Take a look.
I'm gonna break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order.
You know, I'm sure a lot of you were thinking the same thing that I was thinking as you watched that, which was, how in the hell did we get here? Well, I'll tell you how we got here. We got here thanks to Donald J. Trump. He is the one who paved the way for every bit of this. There are two types of people in this world at this point that would watch that video. One is the people like us who is going to watch it for the insanity that it is and say that that guy should never be allowed to wear a badge ever again. And then there's people who will sit back and flex as though they're watching the WWE or Jerry Springer. That's what we're up against. But Donald Trump paved the way for that kind of rhetoric, and more people are going to come out and think that that's okay, and we can never normalize moments like that. We can never sit and try to same wash things like that. And it's not just Donald Trump. He paved the way for it with his grifting. But all the other grifters got in on the act too. The mainstream media realized, you know what, we can get in on this grift too. And so you will have Fox News who will spin that too. Yeah, that's what we need more of. We need more people to stand up and say what that guy was saying. And then you will have other mainstream media networks who won't even cover that story. Or if they do, they will find a way to just water it down in a manner, you know, Florida sheriff gets a little spicy. No. Florida sheriff should be banned from ever being near a police office ever again in his life. That is not the guy that you want watching over your community. Look, we all will say that violent protesters should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. We all say that. We've heard Governor Gavin Newsom say several times, if you break the law, you will be punished. But he didn't take it to that extreme. He didn't go to that extreme because you don't have to. If you have to go to that type of extreme, then you're really not good at your job. How many of you ever watched the Andy Griffith Show? You know, he was a sheriff with no gun. He walked around Mayberry, and I know it was a fictional show, but he walked around Mayberry with no gun, and when he was asked why he did so, he said it was because he wanted the people of Mayberry to respect him and not be afraid of his gun. And yet here is this dude who is out here flexing and saying this over-the-top shit that will get people worked up, and rhetoric like that will cause more violence. That type of speech is going to cause more violence. And that's what they don't understand. Donald Trump and his rhetoric continues to cause more violence. Every time we read the manifestos of people who goes out and takes, you know, things into their own hands and hurts innocent people, every time we read their manifestos, we can trace it right back to Donald Trump's door. Even the people who took shots at Trump themselves, you can trace it right back to Donald Trump's door every time. Because there are a whole lot of people out there, a whole lot of disturbed people who will get in there and will hang on every word that Donald Trump and people like that sheriff says. And there is little Kyle Rittenhouses just sitting back listening to that sheriff and ready to play vigilante. And don't be one bit shocked if we don't see more of that. And they will be fine with it as long as it's a white kid walking down the street with surgical gloves on. They'll be perfectly okay with it. And I don't want to get sidetracked and go back down into that rabbit hole of talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, but the first time that I ever saw that, I said to myself, that kid wouldn't have made it 2 feet if he'd have been black. And when I watched January 6th, I said the same thing. Those people would have not made it that far if they'd have been black. If those people had been black on January 6th and they had been protesting Donald Trump, I promise you, they would have all been laid down on the lawn. And I think we all know that deep down. But that type of rhetoric from that sheriff is totally unacceptable, and it should be called out as such. You can come out and tell people if you break the law, you'll be punished without going to that extreme. Because when you go to that extreme, you tap into the extremist who then wants to go out and be vigilante, and it just makes matters worse. And again, I catch myself saying this in so many videos that I'm making these days, but this is not the America that any of us should ever want to live in. That type of rhetoric should always be called out. We should never let it go. We should never give it a pass. We should never act like it's okay. We should never laugh it off. Folks, it's nothing to laugh about. All that sheriff did was make matters way worse. So I truly do appreciate y'all for your support here on the channel. I will continue to try to call this out as long as I have a platform, and as long as I've got oxygen in my lungs, I will be sitting here, calling this stuff out. And, life is funny. It'll take a lot of different twists and turns. You don't really expect to end up where you're at. All I ever set out to do back when I was younger, I just started writing songs and playing my guitar, and that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to play music and be left alone. But there come a point where the issues at hand were way too important, and I had to start talking, and I couldn't shut up. And now the only regret that I have, if I have any, is that I didn't start doing this sooner. I should have started 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I should have already been on top of this. But I'm going to spend what time I have left being on top of this and calling out this type of insanity for what it is. And to anybody, again, sitting out there flexing at this stuff, folks, we got to learn how to block them out, okay? Don't sit and debate them. Don't sit and entertain them. Don't ask them for strategy points. They're fucking idiots. Leave them over there and let reasonable people come together and work through these things and make this the country that we want to live in instead of this authoritarian nightmare that we got now.